Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it.
Good morning, everybody. Doing something a little bit different. Going to do a Monday market open look, and interesting stuff here. The NASDAQ really gapped up yesterday, like big time, when it opened. The Sunday NASDAQ futures, that is. So the market opened up. Let's take a look here. This, of course, is on the China news. We're going to cover that here. We're going to talk about the China trade news, see how it might affect things, how it might not affect things. But it looks like about 250 points up, this pretty major gap. It's a big, big gap. And so why are the markets moving up? Well, guess what? Now that the markets are open, they're starting to move back down. And you'll notice that when I did my kind of alternate move up here, because yesterday when I did my report, I didn't know exactly what the news was going to be, right? You notice that I stopped the prediction right about here. And look what it did. It literally stopped right exactly where my arrow said. It didn't go past right here. It wicked up to that point, which is right where the arrow went, which is the bottom of this kind of large range back up here, back in December when we saw all-time highs. So it just touched that range and is now pulling back. Now, it might continue up. I'm not saying it's going to stop heading up, but what we have to take a look at is what actual news came out, right? What was the news? The China trade deal. What are the details on that? Well, if we go to zero hedge here, we can actually take a look at some of the details. Now, this is an update as of an hour ago or more, and it says here on Zero Hedge, U.S. Treasury Scott Bessent appeared on Bloomberg TV to discuss the newly announced 90-day suspension of most tariffs between U.S. and China. Below summary key takeaways. Both sides agree we don't want a generalized decoupling. Now, what does that mean to markets? That right there means stability, right? Markets don't like a lack of predictability. Markets like, what's that word for a lack of predictability? They want a sure thing. Markets like to know what's coming next. And there's a word for that, and I'll think of it later. But long story short, when you have uncertainty, which is the opposite of certainty, which is the word I was looking for, markets don't know what to do. Money stays in the sidelines, things become more risky, markets fall. And there was a lot of uncertainty due to these tariffs. We didn't know how this would come out. Well, this 90-day suspension is big news. This was a bit of a game of chicken, and a lot of people said a lot of things, but in reality, there have been great discussions, and there is a 90-day suspension. We'll get into what that looks like here, but let's see what the next note is. According to Bessent, phase 1 trade deal with China offered a template. We'll see where the final China reciprocal tariff ends. Current tariff level for China is a floor. Okay, so basically establishing a bottom level. April 2 level would be a ceiling for China. Okay, so there you go, right? Won't go any higher than it has. We now have a process in place to avoid escalation. Implausible tariffs on China go below 10%. So whatever is implausible is probably relative to U.S. goods and U.S. supply chain. I know, for example, Trump quietly took away tariffs that had to do with a lot of tech items, which were hurting U.S. tech companies. I imagine implausible is relating to that. Looks like Bessent says want to see China boost consumption, open their market. Okay, so basically what the U.S. wants is for China to buy some of our stuff, open their market, because we're buying all their stuff and they're not really buying a lot of our stuff. Well, in reality, there's not a lot of our stuff that they would want to buy because it's expensive and they can produce it themselves. So as much as we want to see that, it's a nice platitude. I don't know how much that's going to really happen, but we'll see. China met phase 1 obligations until Biden neglect. Okay, this is going back to what happened before, right? So Biden didn't hold to whatever the phase 1 deal was. So China said, well, screw it, you're not holding, we're not holding. So escalatory tariffs were like a US-China embargo. And if things don't go well, we can always go back to the April 2 level. And if China acts, perhaps fentanyl tariff could come down. So, okay, yeah, so there is apparently a tariff related to fentanyl. So this is more of the lower level negotiation stuff that, I mean, I don't want to say lower level, but it's not as important as the items up here. Long story short, though, yeah, they're looking at trying to normalize things. And I get the feeling that the 90 days is going to be kind of a quiet or soft negotiation And we're seeing the beginning of what's going to be a normalization. And the big thing is they don't want a decoupling, right? So if there was a decoupling, the problem would be that the economies would be more or less left to their own devices while China's going to sell to who they sell to and the US is going to sell to who we sell to. The problem there is that China's supply chains are better, China's manufacturing is better, China just has more stuff to sell, China can make things more cheaply. And so the deal here was made such that the US and China would cooperate rather than separate, right? And I think that's a big deal. So that's that for the China news. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the economic data coming out, and then we'll go ahead and jump into the charts. By the way, if anybody has any suggestions, any questions, go ahead and make that here. We got Miko. Good to see you on. It's got to be, well, I don't want to reveal where you might be from, but it's got to be a certain time of day there for you. So you're not quite as tired as I am anyway. So we got Monday. Not a lot going on. We know this because I did yesterday's Sunday update, but there's not a lot going on today in the news, right? Aside from the China news, which is a lot. So the news itself is already out. And the question was whether or not this is going to be a sell the news event, right? This came out again about an hour and a half ago. This is not new news, but once the market opened, if we just take a brief look at the charts here, like I said before, once the market actually opened, let me jump down to a lower time frame so we can actually look at this on the 5-minute chart. You'll notice right, let me see, 3:30, 4, 5. What time does it think we're in? Okay. Yeah, so right as the market opened, bam, right? This thing thinks I'm not where I am here. Everybody knows where I am, so it's fine. I don't care. 6, 8, go Mexico City. I'm in Mexico City. Right as the market opened, everything started to fall. I mean, literally within the first few minutes, right? And let me see, I'm on a 30-minute chart. Let's go down to the 5. So a lot of movement up. We got this big gap up as of last night. You'll notice this is yesterday's open right here. Okay. And the market started to gap up and slammed up right here. Okay. Now, as soon as the market opened, which was right here, you'll notice that everything started to fall. Down she goes. Okay. Why is this not fixing? Yep. You know, within the first few minutes the market opened, everything just starts to fall. I mean, literally the opening candles. And I did say this might be a sell the news event, right? The details of the deal were, they were known quite some time ago. We got some details of the deal in Algo Factory Private Live Lab at about 1 a.m. my time. So it's like 3 p.m. or 3 a.m. New York. So a lot of the information was known, but yet the market just kind of went sideways all night long. So it seems that this little bit of market excitement, short-term exuberance, if you will, can't seem to get past this older range. That is the all-time high range going back into December for the NASDAQ. Now, this is going to affect Bitcoin, you would think, but actually what's interesting is Bitcoin's holding strong. Bitcoin did pump up around midnight, and yet right now it's actually kind of just going sideways. It's not really being affected short-term by the news. It's just trading in a range. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the 5-minute, or I'll take this more clearly into the 30-minute chart, I call this little pattern a stairway to heaven, because usually when you see Bitcoin pull this up, higher high, higher low, like this, where it's just like kind of a little stair step up, that means it's usually means it's going to pump. That doesn't always mean that. It could head down. And I did have a contingency for this last night, as you can see with the dotted line. Let me make this a little more neat for everybody. All right, so you'll see this dotted line I drew yesterday, last night's show. This is a bullish look on Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't seem to care that much about the market open, right? It's just continuing to push upwards slowly. To look at the algos on the Bitcoin, it will run into some resistance, but as it stands right now, there's a bit of a divergence between some of the indicators and price. Like some of the indicators are acting bearish and price is continuing upwards, which is a bit of a bullish look. So I would expect Bitcoin to at least test 107 this week. Now, don't forget, in the news itself, we have tomorrow in the morning at 8:30 a.m. EST is CPI, core CPI, and year-over-year CPI. We talked about this yesterday. If this data comes out, higher or lower than normal, higher than normal means inflation is still high, no rate cuts coming. A lot lower than normal means rate cuts might be coming sooner than later. Now, there's this big talk in the news about Trump and Powell, and supposedly they're fighting. I don't buy it. I think it's just news. But I do think that I do think that we're going to see rate cuts come later this year, if not sooner. And I think, look, here's the way that works. Powell needs data. Powell can't just cut rates because he feels like it. He needs data. CPI is data, right? So tomorrow's going to be big. And I wouldn't really be trading a lot. I'd be scalping, which we're going to start kind of getting into shortly if possible. We're going to cover a little bit more information. We have the Deadwood. Good morning. Good to have you on the Deadwood. AUDUSD and PGJ. I think it's Procter & Gamble. McMicko wants to see. Yeah, Deadwood, if you like crypto, that's good. The thing about crypto is it's not very tradable in a sense. Like if you want to trade like a professional trader, crypto is very difficult to predict because it doesn't have a solid, it's not, you have like a year of bullishness and then you have like a year of nothing and then you have a year of bearishness and then you have a year of nothing. So, and that second year of nothing is like, I that's highly oversimplified. It's not exactly what I said, but it's like a year and a half of nothing, bear market. And then you have this crazy bullishness for like a year and a half. And then you have this complacency and then you have price fall down, right? So you can't backtest that with any level of like accuracy. And we're not here to gamble on cryptos. Yes, cryptos are great to look at during the bull market because you can kind of buy the dip. And technically we are still in a bit of a bull market, but we could see crypto go to new highs. We could. It's possible. But buying and holding crypto, that's not really an active thing for traders, my friend. If you want to buy and hold the crypto, like that's fine. Buy it, hold it. You don't do anything for 6 months. Maybe you win, maybe you don't. But there's no like science on that one. What we do here at Algo Factory is we take a look at assets, currency pairs, things that you can test and get a reliable result. Crypto is just not reliable in that sense, right? So what I like to do is find a place where I can get base hits, take small amounts of money, and if there's a crypto or gold or whatever it is I like to invest in, I put the money in that. Then we follow the cycle. Now in the crypto bear, that's when you'll see me start to talk about which cryptos I like, because cryptos pretty much have nowhere to go but up. But at this time in the crypto world, I think we're in, you could say the late summer, so maybe there's more time, mid to late summer, more chance to go up, certainly. So I think there's a good probability we'll see at least a test of Bitcoin's high, if not an all-time high. And then of course the altcoins will follow, and that's great. And it's not a bad time to consider holding some crypto, but that's not really what we do here at Algo Factory. What we do is we backtest. We backtest everything. Yeah, you know what? That's fine. All season's great. Again, what are you going to do? Just buy and hold. That's great. Like we're not here to really focus on buying and holding because that doesn't really serve us more than saying, okay, you like this crypto, buy it and hold it. It's a great way to make money. Not knocking it, but we're not here to do that. We are here to look at charts to trade and make wins. And that's mostly going to involve Forex, NASDAQ, maybe trading Bitcoin or Solana, some of the big blue chips. So we'll focus on that. We're not going to worry too much about the altcoins. You like altcoins? Great. Buy them and hold them if that's what you want to do. You'll probably make money for a while. And then you won't have anything to do for a year and a half unless you sell them. And then what? What are you going to do for that time when crypto's falling? Okay, good. Mick says, okay, so you want to see AUDUSD. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so Nice short. Okay, so yeah, AUDUSD did make its way up to where I thought, but then the news knocked it down, so that's fine. Interesting thing about that, the Aussie is linked to gold, and if you take a look at gold, it also took a nice fall, which I did project. So that at least, my main projection for gold is playing out more or less. So I'm not surprised to see the Aussie having taken that fall overnight. So let's take a look at the broader look on this. Okay, so yeah, you know what? We could be seeing a turnaround. The higher time frame has a fair amount of bullishness left, but we're in a pretty strong resistance in the weekly. So look, if you're in a short, I think it's a bit late to take a short personally, unless you're scalping, which I may end up doing today. Because look at this on the 3-hour. It's ever since it peaked up and the market panicked, you're looking at a move down, and of course you're getting near some pretty key supports right here. So the couple of ways to play this. First of all, this line right here, that's the news. Okay. That's the news right there. That's the CPI. So whatever you're going to do, at least let's not talk about what you need to do, but let's talk about how I'm going to do it, because I don't give advice. But whatever kind of trading that I'm going to do is going to be short term until at least the CPI comes out, and maybe even the PPI. This week's going to be mostly scalp week. Not a lot of opportunities to swing trade with the current news cycle. I mean, you might be able to catch a swing for today, but I think it's going to be day trading and scalping until at least the CPI is out. PPI is even 2 days later. So that said, the price is definitely short-term bearish, right? And it's probably going to either continue down to this support, which is at 63674. You might get maybe a move up temporarily and then head down, because those of you in Algo Factory looking at the data down here know exactly what I'm looking at. But if I had to bet, I'd say it's probably going to just kind of grind downwards. So if I were scalping, I would look on the 5-minute chart or lower. So I actually trade the 1 minute because I can. And you're looking at what really is a bear flag, price trying to grind up, but mostly bearish. So I would consider, if I were scalping, a breakout of this little area, right? And of course, the algos have to line up, but what you might end up with is a bit of a move down here. Now, if I'm trading this and watching it, I'll go ahead and share whatever that is with Algo Factory as far as the stop loss and those types of things, in a scalping session. Right now, Mondays are not my favorite day to scalp. But that's what that is right there, right? So we're looking at a possible just kind of a grind downwards. It might not be so straight, right? It might kind of stretch out this way. And what we need to understand about trading today is that CPI is in less than 24 hours. CPI is in 22 and a half hours. So the volatility is going to drop, right? And it'll probably drop about halfway through the day. Today's probably not a good trading day. Anytime you have major news the next day in the early morning, what you're going to probably see is volatility drop off partway through the day. So whatever trades you're trying to take, or they may fizzle out. You might not get much. Price might start to bounce around in unpredictable ways. A lot of times the market makers are going to move price around, things like that. So you gotta watch out there. It just is what it is. All right, good. So, but that's what I would expect. It might even look, depending on the volatility, you might even have something like this. So there you go. Something like that. But again, the stop loss, everything else. Well, you can see that one of my algos did just ping right here. Oh, and then it unpinged, right? So we got to wait for the candle to close. But one of my algos did just flicker on. Let's take a brief look. It's kind of against my rules to take this trade right now. Actually, I can take a quarter position size right now if I care to. I can do that. Do I want to do it? It's another question altogether. Let me take a look at my trading console. This is AUDUSD. Yeah, it's still right at that support that I don't like. It's still sitting the bottom of this box until price crosses that. It's kind of a bit of a problem for me. But as soon as I get a decent breakdown, I may take a risk on it, and it just depends what the algos are doing. So I got AUD/USD on the radar, but I'm going to be completely straightforward with you. I think the smarter trade, because this move is so far in, this move down is already so far in, and the market's open and the news is out and things are going to slow down. I might actually, as long as the algos like say it's okay, I might wait for this to do a long. And it's going to be more or less of a kind of a range long, because price is really still bouncing around. Like if I zoom out to maybe like the 3-hour, price is just trading in a range. You get a short-term move down, certainly, but this range is pretty well established. I mean, this is a support that's just been kind of working over and over and over again, right? And price more or less rejected at the top of pretty clear range. So I know a lot of money is going to want to short, but what you're doing here is you're diving into a shallow pool. There's not a lot of room to move down, and this move is pretty into its maturity. I'd look for a bounce up. That's what I would probably do. And the problem with that is where we are in the market. We have the news. So again, today's probably not the best day for scalping, just due to the fact that we have impending major news. Now, if you're on the 1-minute chart like I am, you might find a couple of quick moves down, hyper scalps, but that's not what we're talking about here. I am going to go ahead and bring out that chart though, so I can see the 1 minute. Let me change this really quick. Right there. Okay, and let me kind of move this to where it needs to be. All right, move this back. Okay, so now I have a little more data to trade here. Which one is this? Okay, all right there. Okay, I disappeared my chart. Give me a second. There it is. All right. Good. I'm just going to arrange a couple things here. Okay, so yeah, you can see that. Okay, good. We're in the right stuff. Don't forget, go to the description, click on that link. You get a free algo, and I'm also going to be sending out like market updates and such, right? So know that. Okay, still we're on the wrong chart. Move this here. Move this there. And of course, I've moved the wrong chart. So everybody, just dealing right now. There it is. Good. Okay, so back to AUD/USD, and we'll look at the 1 minute just to see how that's behaving, because that's where the scalpage like happens, right? It's the 1 minute chart. Okay. Looking at the algos, I'm just gonna, I mean, there's a couple ways to look at this. I think we're gonna see a bit of a bounce, but it might have happened till later today. So a low risk kind of scalp once it breaks below this. This is 1 minute chart, folks, but this is the bottom of that box that I drew on the other chart right there. And then you have this support right here. So if you're gonna scalp, you're kind of playing in a dangerous zone until price breaks below all this. And I guarantee you, like, not guarantee, but there is a very high probability price is actually going to go like this and just go back up to this little mini top. And everybody is like, oh, it's bearish, short it. And it's just like nukes everybody. I mean, I've seen this, I scalp. It's what I do all day long. It's almost guarantee it. So I've got certain rules, and right now the rules don't really agree to a short. I think price may continue down. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's a good probability of it, but things are so extended short term, so I'm not really into it. Let's take a look at the next chart, PGJ. XRP is waking up. We'll take a brief look at XRP. This is one of the ones I hold and I don't sell, just because of what it is. And I can tell you that the high time frame charts are nothing but bullish. XRP is, you know, it has an all-time high to break around 340, but the trajectory is strong with XRP. I would definitely be bullish on it. It's hard to trade. It's not something that moves very naturally. So I don't know that I would trade it, but I hold XRP and I always hold some. Sometimes I hold more times than others. Bitcoin itself is quickly approaching its high. So but today, and we're going to go to PGJ in a minute, your China ETF, don't worry about it. But again, it's just kind of going in this range and it's in this kind of bullish formation. So I would expect, depending on CPI, Bitcoin to, if CPI and PPI are like weak and inflation numbers are low, Bitcoin could test its all-time high this week or next. It could happen really fast. This is very bullish right now. So back to PGJ, Golden Dragon China ETF. Okay, let's look at a better chart for this. Am I on the 1 minute? Whatever. Yeah, I need a better chart. PGJ. Well, I guess that's the best we're going to get. A little messy on the chart. If you're trading like on, basically the NASDAQ, it's kind of hard to read this. It's hard to see the candles. They're not very clear, but that's okay. I can still look at the algos and do the math. Look, it's high time frame. It's bullish high time frame, but this is just bullish high time frame. But the reality is that despite like indicator bullishness, it's really having a hard time breaking some highs. So we'll go to the monthly. See, everything's like kind of trying to grind up, but you're not seeing price able to break 33.68. So, Miko, I don't know what time frame you're trading. I think it's not a bad play to maybe trade the range on this. So given that it's sluggish and everything's kind of, it's pretty sluggish on the high time frame. Don't get me wrong, like nice gap up on the open. On the lower time frame charts, there is money to be made. But if I were really just like being careful about this, I just look to trade this range right here. And this range that I drew does seem to be also having kind of a newer bit of a bottom here. It doesn't want to go past this 24.53, but that's not the worst place to long if it makes its way back down there, right? But I wouldn't be surprised to see PGJ with, especially the news, make its way up to here, which is at 33.60. And then what may happen is you get a rejection here or not. If it breaks up and the news is good and China's taking orders, and orders meaning China's factories are filling orders and selling and everything's great, then what we might see is, finally a big move up. But, this is going back to like 2022. So this issue, this range is going back to 2022. So the news would have to be rather exuberant and the entire cycle over there would have to be a little bit better. Their economy's cooling off, but we're also hearing all this, China's economy is going to die. No, it's not going to die. They're doing fine. They have a lot of debt, sure, but it's all self-contained. And I wouldn't worry too much about China at this point. I wouldn't worry that their economy is going to fail or something. And yeah, sure, they might contract a bit. They're already contracting. Now they're doing fine. A lot of news is mostly to be ignored. The China trade deal is big news for short term. And it's going to add some exuberance to the market. But you'll notice here, even now, sure, this is the daily chart. Nice gap up, but there's nice gaps up all the time. It's nothing new, right? So if I were to just kind of judge what it'll do based on the algos, and then I'll probably stop taking requests and doing looking for trades. So this isn't request hour. This is trade hour, guys. So I may just simply not take any more requests, but it's bullish right now. I can tell you that. It's just, I would expect bullish to sideways action headed up to like 34. All right, good. So let's see if there are any. Yeah, Deadwood, most people don't know how to short crypto though. So, and shorting crypto is not as reliable as shorting like, Forex or, NASDAQ or anything like that. Shorting crypto is extremely not reliable. All right, good. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at some trades. So euro, nice little bearish look on there on the daily. This is the right. Okay, this is the right. Let's do this. Settings. Don't know why this always goes here. Okay. No, don't want that. Sorry, guys and gals. Got to fix something here. All right. So the euro's bearish, but I think it's going to actually bounce up, right? So if you look at like sometime today, it's already kind of started, but the algos haven't allowed me to take the trade just yet. It's coming up though. So what I think is going to happen with the euro on this is there's a little bit of an older support here from a move up. So you can see like this range that built right here. And you can see price is bouncing off of it. So if I were to go to a higher time frame, let's take a look at the market structure here. You know, price was, I mean, this is like textbook, right? It's almost very reliable. And when I do these trades, I can't share them on YouTube. And I do share them in Algo Factory when I take a trade. Right now, in a kind of a scalping session, I will share them. But the problem is like it's only for educational purposes. Like you're not supposed to take my trades, right? But I do share them. So this is a typical uptrend. And then now you're seeing a correction. Right? So now it may bounce here, it may not. But what's important is that on the way up, you had this kind of high right here where price was heading up. Oops. Price was heading up here. So let's take away this. Price was heading up here, made a high, bounced a low, and then continued up. Okay. Now, as that happened, what you'll notice is that there's this kind of box that got created right there. Okay. Now, that box is going to create a couple things, but mostly it's going to create liquidity. So price is going to drop down to that box. Now, it may continue up, but if you look at the higher time frame, things are a bit bearish right now. The euro on the monthly made a strong move up and it rejected just above what was a prior range. And many think that it was a false move up. And there's a lot of economic reason behind that. We talked about this. Tom Luongo has a really good theory on that. And while price did peak above that range, this is on the monthly, it's a very high time frame. Now it's going to head down. So it may be that we start to see a descent. And that descent over time, this is on the 30-minute chart right now, that descent over time may make its way down here, but there's a lot of structure in the way where price may bounce. So if we're just looking purely at structure, and we are on a thesis that price is going to head to the bottom of this box, then that thesis would probably look, according to at least what I'm seeing in the algos, something like a little grind, a pop up, and then a move down. Maybe a pop up here, move down, pop up here, move down. It's very likely what's going to happen over the next like month or two, or at least weeks. Maybe not exactly like this, right? But if that bearishness continues to be in play, then we're looking, at least I'm looking to sell the rallies, right? I want to see the rallies happen, and then I'll sell those. Might be some scalps to be had in the meantime. Don't get me wrong. But the smart move, at least in my way, if this is the thesis, if price is going to go down, it may not go exactly like this, might only look like this, might just go like that. But whatever it is, I look for the rallies and I sell them when things are bearish. And the algos really do say that things are turning bearish. Now, that could flip around. That could flip around, but this is bearish looking to me. Very, very bearish. And it's been that way. It's been turning that way for like a week. But currently, and again, Algo Factory members know what I'm talking about. Looking at the algos here, right now you have what's probably going to be a little bit of a move up, and it's a scalpable move up. I wouldn't do a high time frame type trade or like a swing trade up, especially because of the news coming out. But what's probably going to happen, I think, in the near term is something like this. It's going to grab some liquidity here tonight. maybe, or this afternoon. And then overnight, it's probably going to get real quiet. And then we'll see what happens with CPI in the morning, which actually will be more like right about here. So it may up, down. It really depends on CPI. I mean, let me ask the quant. Let me just go ahead and dial into a quant and see what they think will happen. And I'm going to share it only with Algo Factory, what the quant says. Quant bot. All right, good. So all right, let's see what we got here. All right, we'll let the quant get back to us. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put that answer. There we go. Into Algo Factory so they can read what that says. And then I'm going to take a brief look at the actual. See, you can see with the euro how it's already starting to head up. So it could just edge up until it hard up like that. So right now, I'll have to take a deeper look here. Yeah, I'd say the scalps are in. But the smart move really on this, really is to let this bit of upward, this actually looking at it a little harder, this could temporarily fizzle out and be a nice short and then maybe pop up, or just go flat and short, or flat and pop up. So I don't think we're going to see a pop up right now. But it's, my rules kind of may not allow me to trade this. Let me see. It's tricky, man. With the way this is, I could scalp it a bit, but my rules are really not liking what I see on this right now. It's too risky. There is a metric that I think will change in the next 24 hours that will allow me to scalp this. If I do scalp this, it'll be at a very small risk level, just like play money. So that's that on the euro. And the British pound is looking very similar. If I were to high time frame this, yeah, so you're looking at a kind of a similar turnaround for the pound, but it's a more messy chart. So price will be attracted to this area here. But it has some price action to play with. So it's going to fill what's probably a fair value market gap right here. Most likely it's going to head down, but it's also in a position to where it might pop up a bit. This is a very messy chart. I can't scalp that. JPY I did scalp to the upside already. That was actually Sunday. I don't usually trade Sundays, but I just couldn't. I couldn't say no to a trade. There's going to be a lot of bullishness in this. So what I'd be doing is looking for pullbacks to go long. Okay. A couple of things to be concerned about with this, though. Like right now, the current little move up on the 3 hour is so strong, and this is Mondays. Mondays are like really not good for scalping. The market is going to kind of need to mature. It's going to need to digest all the news over the weekend. So what I'm seeing is I'm not seeing good conditions for scalps, and that's why we stopped doing kind of like live labs on Mondays and Fridays. And Mondays and Fridays conditions are usually not that good for any kind of trading.
Check for SD.
All right, so look at the USDCAD, similar issue. I would be looking for longs on this one, but I need price to kind of calm down a bit and maybe bounce off of this support more or less right here or right here. So I might look for scalps later today. I don't know that now is the time. Again, just Monday opens not that great, but I would be looking for something like that and just grab a low right here at this local support if it can make it down that far, because this is a rather bullish chart. So a lot of charts are kind of hyper extended right now, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's just that Monday is so unpredictable. But I think we have a decent opportunity, like we being me, to grab a pullback on the loonie and then long it here at about 139. So if it does make it near that structure, or even just, it doesn't have to go all the way as long as the algos ping okay. But this is a chart that's probably going to go sideways until it goes up. So if I were to scalp it, I would probably be out before these highs right here. So it would be something where I just kind of long here. I would share the actual details like the stops and, you know, the targets with Algo Factory privately, but other than that, not really sharing that out. GBPJPY, a lot of JPY pairs just can be bullish right now. So JPY, see, like this was the trajectory naturally for this. And I drew this like last week in the middle of one of our private live labs. So on this 3-hour chart, I expected a rejection, a pull down, and it happened. It just like happened way quicker than I thought it would. Like the rejection happened immediately. So let me do this. The rejection actually, like it just did this. Like this part of it just didn't happen. It didn't make a big long move. It just simply did this instead. And that's fine. You know, I was right. I called it. It just happened more quickly and it didn't go as deep as I thought, right? So the basic, you know, now the move up was perfect. That part of it was pretty much perfect. I started it lower, but the trajectory of the move up was dead nuts on. Now, this again is going to remain bullish for a while. Most JPYs will. So I would be looking for, I mean, I can scalp this. I don't like the spreads on the beast for scalping though. But there are opportunities here, and it's probably going to be, if anything, I mean, it's at a resistance now, so it might kind of go sideways, dip, and then go up, or it might break above and then go up, right? Either way, though, I'd be looking for the break above pullback, or maybe the pull down pullback, right? That's I would look for on that. Boring AUDJPY, just hanging out. Nothing to talk about there. Remember, the Aussie got a little less bullish, so it's kind of a tough one to even trade. We talked about AUDUSD. AUDUSD actually continuing that conversation. You can see it might be breaking below. So those who are scalping and comfortable with taking such a trade, I wouldn't take this right now based on what I'm seeing in the charts. But within, yeah, this could be scalped. It could have been scalped on a very low time frame right now. But I would want to see, there's some I want to see on here. I don't want to talk too much about it. Just don't want to share all the secrets and all that. But there's some I want to see on this before I take that trade. It could go down though. You know, it might go down without me, but there's a rule on the 5-minute chart that I can't break. So you got to follow our rules, even though like a trade might go down or it might go where you want it to go. There's a rule on this chart that I can't break. So it's just, I need something to happen there. Otherwise I might be looking at an Aussie scalp short today. USDCHF. Okay, so this is actually shaping up to be bullish for a while. So on USDCHF, it might even be, before I start scalping this, like again, there are certain rules, especially on this 3-hour chart. There's a rule I can't break right now. It's probably going to continue up, but eventually that rule will resolve and I'll be able to take some scalps. But it's just this Monday morning with the news, all the markets are too hyperextended to take a scalp. So that said, I'll probably end this here, you know, unless anybody, you know, now that I have found that I can't really trade anything, I'll take a look at gold. We'll relook at the NASDAQ. We'll look at gold and silver, and we'll make some decisions. I think this is going to continue to be bullish, at least for half the day. And I do think, again, this is the NASDAQ right here. And you'll notice that the SP 500 and the Dow are like looking very similar. But on the NASDAQ, I think it will go sideways to up. It's either going to resume up or it's going to go sideways and then resume up. Those are my most likely scenarios based on the news. But remember, halfway through the day with CPI coming out tomorrow, we might actually see a surprise. So, and the rest of the market thinks that too. So they may not be willing to trade and things will flatten out and the opportunities will dry up for scalping. So let's take a brief look at gold. So gold I did project heading down and head down it did. This is actually projection going back to last week, almost a week ago. I projected it heading down and that's what it's doing. So the projection you saw on the weekly video last night is not this. Now that projection also seems to be correct. If I can flash over to that real quick. This was last night's projection, and I did kind of give a couple of alternate routes as I tend to do, but you can see last night's projections relatively accurate. Price is crossing over and going in the same trajectory as my main projection. But if we go over here to last week's, that trajectory, there were no alternate routes. It's like it's probably just going to do this. Now, will it go down further down to like test 3170 or maybe even all the way down to like 3,000 area? It could. Gold's been on a massive run. Markets are now calming down because of the China news. With less volatility, less uncertainty, at least a little bit for now, gold may cool off a bit. So I don't think it's going to, I think it's going to continue up eventually though. I don't think we're done seeing the run of gold, but we might see some time. Before that happens, silver, very calm. Silver just trading in a range. So I don't know, it's going to take a significant amount of information news or technical change for for silver to stop trading between like 32 and 33.25 ish. So that's it. That's it for the charts for now. So I don't see any more comments or requests right now. And again, there's not a lot of charts to be had. So I think that's pretty much it for today. Look, if you want to, have a little more input on this kind of stuff, the best thing to do is join algofactory.tech, right? So do that. Just, click this link on in the description right there. Go to description, click the link, give you a free algo, and it's going to put you on a list where I can send you our weekly updates, things like that, right? So that's how you can kind of get into our system, and then you'll have the opportunity to join. You could just simply go to algofactory.tech, join us there. But all that stuff that I talk about today and the things that I'm not able to share, we share to the private group. And it's all for educational purposes only. While I do share trades in there, it's not for you to take those trades. So it's for you to just learn, but you get to see my trades. So that's always, it's usually coming down to about a trade a week for, higher time frame stuff, but I am going to be sharing more of my scalps. And again, for educational purposes, right? So that said, I'm going to hop off. And, thank you all for watching. And like I said, if you have questions, just go ahead, click that link, get the algo, and that's going to give you a direct line to us. You can ask questions. Hope to hear from you soon. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you tomorrow.